All right, welcome everybody to another episode of Tennis Channel Inside In on the Tennis Channel Podcast Network. Mitch Michals from the Santa Monica studios. It's Wimbledon time, final weekend. Everything's exciting. And, you know, this is like a year since she started coming on the show, her third appearance. You know her as the Hall of Famer, world number one, multi-time slam champion. Also building a stable of young athletes in your own household, too. Lindsay Davenport, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you. Love to be with you.
It's been a fun time, and you can just look at the numbers right across the board with tennis. Everyone's kind of watching. Everyone's invested. I know the big stars of the game are kind of moving on. Some have already moved on, but no shortage of drama and storylines, that's for sure.
No, and you know, we were concerned certainly with the men's side of the game when obviously like Federer stepped aside. Obviously Nadal closer to that than still playing, but you know, fortunately, we have a lot of great stars that have really kind of risen, and the public have really embraced them, and that's really what it takes. We're building a nice stable of American stars as well, so that'll help. Obviously, Coco's been huge in that regard, but it's an amazing sport. Once people, I also feel, see it live, they have a whole new appreciation for it. It looks a little bit easier to do on TV than it is live, but we need superstars. And fortunately for tennis, we've always had them, and it looks like we're going to continue with that for the foreseeable future.
The live point's 100% agreeable for me. It hooks new fans. It's one of those things. We talked about like hockey and other sports that just when you go live versus TV, sometimes it translates off the page. Yeah. First time I saw a 140 mile an hour serve, I was like, whoa.
Or you actually see the how the ball moves around the court, the spin, like, oh, it looks so easy. Why don't you just come in against Nadal? Well, have you seen the forehand and how much it moves and jumps and everything like that?
So looking at the grass, we're going to start with the ladies first. The Wimbledon semifinal. We have a 4 seed versus a 31 and a 7 versus an unseeded. And I know that we've had some parity in the past. There's been a top quartet, I'd say, of players emerging. But looking at this tournament, and I kind of thought that maybe grass would be the one. Obviously not Iga's surface, but does it surprise you that maybe this is the major, this is the surface where we've seen more parity than before? And do you think that will continue?
You know, interesting. I think obviously with Sabalenka, when she withdrew, all of a sudden one huge favorite was out. And you look at Swiatek and you look at Goff and you look at their history of playing at Wimbledon as pros, and they're just not that comfortable. And we think every year like it's going to change and they're going to make a run because they're both so good. They're both so athletic. But something about that surface just hasn't really allowed them to play their best tennis. They're not as free on that surface as they are some of the other surfaces. So all of a sudden, then you took out 2 more huge favorites pretty early on. And you're left with Rybakina, who really is a huge favorite, a former champion, and a game that's like tailor-made for the surface in this modern era. But I wonder. I really do hope that Swiatek finds her way. It looks like there's a lot more stress for her when she steps on a grass court, and Goff is going to figure it out. I feel like that's going to happen, but just did not look comfortable at all when she was playing Emma. And that was hard to see because she's come so far with her on-court maturity and everything she's been able to handle. That just felt like a half a step backwards for our champion.
Certainly did. And for Iga, I think it was something like 28 forehand errors in that match, which is
out of nowhere. Wins the first set, has a great, that was not, I think it was 9 sets in a row against Putintseva, and she just imploded. She did that also against Svitolina the year before. There must be something about the surface that's in her head. On a different surface, I just don't see her getting as uptight.
This Final Four on the women's side also shows you how much experience matters. We have a Wimbledon champ, another major champion, and then 2 players that really are the definition of late bloomers, have taken a while to get here but are peaking. One final note on that. I know you've won this tournament and you've had success on grass, but it's a new surface. It's different. Did it take you time to adjust, or did you just find that your game suited up with it?
No, it took years. And, the first year I even played the juniors, I was awful. I played qualies. I lost in first-round qualies. I was really young, but I think I was 16 or something, and I was in qualies, and I was just laughed. I'm like, this surface is awful. I think it was 97. I got chopped up in the first or second round by a good grass courter in Larissa Nyland, and it was like, I hate this surface. I really do. And finally, I think it was 98. Maybe I started to play a little bit better and win some matches, but it took me years. Yeah. And the grass back then, I do feel like was tougher than the grass today. I think the grass today plays a little harder and bounces, but back then there was no bounce. There was a lot of players that sliced and came in, and it was a nightmare for me. I did figure it out, and then I felt like I got a great handle on it. And that's why I'm not ready to, quote, give up on like the Swiatek's or Goffs, because you need time on it. And it's a surface that everyone spends the least amount of time on it. And you have to be really flexible emotionally. You get bad bounces, you get weird line, like everything kind of crazy happens. And so I think though, once you kind of unlock it and how you can play well on it, then people really start to take off and seem to do well then every year.
Yeah, I think it was Tracy Austin that told me that eventually it just comes together. You put it all together, it happens fast on grass. Also, not to say it was a different sport, but I watched recently the highlight of that Sampras-Ivanisevic final, like 94.
It was. I mean, honestly, you're just like, make your first serve and you'll win the point. And also the court would wear in different areas because everyone was trying to come in. So I used to have certain target zones on the court based on how it would wear. And if you look at the highlights, like if you turn in this week, it's getting worn down in different areas than it did 20 whatever years ago. So the way that the game is played is changed also.
Well, looking at these 4 semifinalists, I want to start with Donna Vekic, her 11th try. And this journey has been emotional. It's been tough. Was out of the top 100 not too long ago. Saw her kind of put things together over the last few years, but to do it on her 11th try, get to the semifinal, her first major semifinal, it's a pretty emotional journey from one of the most likable players. Still also, you do this in tennis a lot, only 28 years old, but she's been a pro for a long time. Finally has that breakthrough on tennis's grandest stage.
Yeah, you all these players and have these amazing stories. Everybody has a backstory. And Vekic, again, a couple years ago, thinking about getting out of the game after bad knee injuries, after she gets to a career high into the top 20. There are so many setbacks players have to go through. It's such an emotional journey for every player. But Vekic gives players hope to just, you got to tough out these really brutal moments of your career. A lot of players have them, unfortunately. It does make you stronger, but it's certainly not easy. But then you see her journey the last 10 days and you're like, this is why
four deciders.
Yeah, it's crazy. And this is why she's still out there. And this is why she's toughed out some really tough times, some tough losses, some tough days in rehab and PT and all of that. Or for these kind of moments. And it was really interesting watching her play in the quarterfinal against Soon, because Soon was up, and Vekic just was hanging around. And you got to the third, and all of a sudden she was the fresher player. And it was nice to see if you're a Vekic fan. And obviously we'll see how she approaches this. She knows it's a big opportunity against Paolini. On
grass, it makes sense too with how she can play, how she can use her power, and how smart she is out there. Yeah, I was at that San Diego tournament where the run started, where she beat, I think, 4 top 20, top 25 players. Really great to see. Also, I know it's like a Hall of Fame coaching, Hall of Fame player tennis channel thing, but also the inside-in guests that have been coaching still have players then, and Pam Shriver and Paul Annacone. So,
it's awesome. And I think that, for the players that do strike up a relationship with someone with experience, whether they're a player and coach or whatever, it definitely helps. And Pam has obviously been a wonderful influence to Donna. It's great to see, and I'm happy for them both.
Hope we see Lou soon keep going. It was a remarkable story. Her backstory is incredible, and I just hope she can keep going because it was a dream run. Hopefully the first of a few for her.
Yeah, and she's put herself in a great opportunity, almost into the top 50. Now all of a sudden she'll be in main draws. She'll have all these opportunities, one, to get more prize money, to get more ranking points, and to get that experience. The level that she'll face, match in and match out, will obviously go up pretty drastically when you start playing the bigger tournaments regularly. But she was a revelation this tournament. It was really fun to get to know her and her backstory and her journey. And she certainly, her game as well, is a real bright spot for her.
Well, Donna Vekic will face in the semifinal Jasmine Paolini. This Paolini renaissance is just stunning.
Yep.
Not only does she make that run to the Roland Garros final, but then she follows it up at Wimbledon, a tournament where she never won a main draw match, and is into the semifinal, decimating Emma Navarro in that quarterfinal. What Paolini has done and how she's played, you even heard Emma say it, not the same player I played before. The aggression, the confidence is still there, and it's ramping up, and it's just remarkable. Maybe the most stunning thing in the entire fortnight.
So we had to give, for our show here at Tennis Channel, your most surprising storyline of the year. And my first answer was Jasmine Paolini, now top 5 in the world, wins a 1,000 on hard court. gets to the final of Roland Garros and a semifinal at least at Wimbledon. And it's not that her game, but it's not for lack of trying. I mean, she's been playing for many, many years. She obviously, with a great coach, Renzo Furlan now, they've put in a lot of hard work. She has that belief, but also her game. I mean, everything about her game is like rock solid. She's not the tallest, but she's got great power. She's learned how to develop a great serve for her height. She backs herself in the big moments in matches, goes for it. It's been really fun to get to watch her play, do well, but yet somehow continue to improve these first 6 months also of the year. Not playing with a lot of pressure, even though you think like at one point maybe she will.
Right.
It seemed like a pretty big favorite in that match, and none of it mattered. It was all about Paolini, and now let's see how she handles playing Vekic.
Right. That's the thing with Emma, that she's going to learn, obviously, a great run beating Coco, beating Naomi, but then you get to the next stage, the second week, it's like a whole new tournament, as you know, and then what you did doesn't matter. You need a whole nother level. Nothing really that got you there is a guarantee that you're going to go forward. It's a learning curve, and still a tremendous Wimbledon, as unfortunate as that last match was. But for Jasmine, you talk about all those things. The fact that there wasn't that emotional adrenaline dump, because she's on this high. Roland Garros final, she'll be known as that for the rest of her life. And then still no dump, still playing better, and still just keeping it going on a completely different surface.
It would have been really easy for her to come into this year's Wimbledon, having never won a match, having just gotten to the final of Roland Garros, to just be like, whatever. This is awesome.
Yeah.
No, she was ready to go from the first match, and the team around her obviously has her believing like, no, we're going to keep this going. You're going to make a run here. We used to have clay court specialists back in the day, and they would just, it seemed like, show up at...
Come out of the shadows.
At Wimbledon just to get the prize money. Like, maybe I'll take the court.
Yeah.
And no, she went back to work. Not easy. I mean, that was a life-changing tournament at the French Open. So for her to then be able to reset in such a short amount of time really speaks volumes to her personality also.
More with Lindsay Davenport here on Tennis Channel Inside In, talking Wimbledon. The other female semifinal is set. We're going to get Elena Rybakina back in the Final Four. She looked dominant today, lost her first service game of the match against Svitolina. From there, it was smooth sailing on that side. Got some easy breaks later in the match, really pulled away. There is a favorite in this tournament to go, and you can see why when you watch her play. Dare I say, Lindsay, she's actually serving better than the year that she was when she won the title.
She just looks fine out there. There's no drama. You don't hear anything going around off the court. She seems healthy. That has been maybe the biggest part about her, are all these things that have happened to her, either with illness or with injuries, and not really ready. She's been fluid. She's gotten through her matches comfortably, managing her service games. Once you start holding easily on the surface and you learn to use all your serves, like it seems like she has, all of a sudden you feel so much less pressure when you're returning. Yeah. You're like, okay, I feel really good that I'm going to hold. I'm going to take a chance here. I'm going to take a chance there. And that has helped her play well. She's a pretty overwhelming favorite. I even think starting in the quarterfinal round to win a second Wimbledon. How does she handle that pressure? We'll see. But so far, it hasn't seemed to be a burden at all.
So I had a theory I'm kind of workshopping, and I kind of felt this way when people said, and some people argued, that it was Coco's tournament at the time. That's a lot of pressure. That's a big moment for even her to handle. Same with Rybakina, but yet I don't think pressure phases her.
Doesn't seem like it anyway.
Maybe,
you
I don't know.
And she's just like, whatever. I think she was joking, like, are you ever going to have a big reaction? When you win something, and she's like, maybe. She just seems like she has ice in her veins when she's out there playing. But that's why you got to lace them up to see, can she bring it for 2 more matches? Yeah, still some tricky opponents there, including her next one, Barbora Krejcikova. 2 straight matches, Lindsay. Sizable underdog, wins in straight sets. Collins and then Ostapenko, who is playing flawless grass court tennis. Barbora just gets it done. It's very crafty. It's creative out there. And for her entire personality off the court, which is bubbly, nice, friendly, she's a killer out there. Yeah. And she shows a lot of emotion. And I love seeing that. And I love watching her tactically figure out who she's playing. She just played the 2 players where if you were to start tennis out of the hand, right, and take away the serve, like I think 2 of the best, I think they'd be 2 of the best in Collins and Ostapenko. Great ball strikers, great power, great ground strokes. And she went to work in disrupting their game. There's not a lot of players that play in today's game that have that ability. She plays a different style. Barty was able to do it. She's obviously not playing anymore. But she just has that feel. Slices low on purpose, short in the court on purpose, moving kind of her shots around the court. She knows she's not going to out-hit either of them. And they were both flustered out there. All of a sudden, many more errors from Collins. Obviously, Ostapenko, it's much tougher to play aggressive when the ball's like at your ankle or your shin height as it is when it's waist height. Now, the challenge for Krejcikova against Rybakina, you have to get the serve back. You've got to be able to get it back, and you've got to put some pressure on Rybakina in her service games. And then it falls immediately back on you, and you've got to be able to serve well also. I love to see her back playing well. It was a tough stretch for her after winning Roland Garros. She really kind of struggled with that transition of being a Grand Slam champion to being able to maintain that level week in and week out. Doubles partnership that broke up last year. She's gotten everything back together, and it's fun to see.
It certainly is. 5-match grass court win streak, longest of her career. So we'll see if it keeps going. On the men's side, there was some brutal news today. De Minaur did not take the court. De Minaur did not take the court as we get an update on the Fritz match going 5. It's 5.
I keep my eye on it.
We're recording this as it's going on.
Yeah.
It's good. We've got tight schedules.
I just wanted to
here.
tell you he was down some break points early in the fourth. He's just won the fourth, so we're going.
He was. We're gonna get to that in a second, but
Sorry.
the guy on the other side of the no, it's fine. The guy on the other side of the semi is gonna be Novak Djokovic. Didn't have to take the court today. I mean, it's just absolutely brutal. We've seen a lot of injuries. We saw it with certain players, Keys, Dimitrov, but De Minaur to win that match on match point hurt his hip. Never gotten this far at Wimbledon. He said biggest match of his career on deck, and he couldn't take the court. It's just brutal.
It's heartbreaking, but you literally could see it when it happened, and his face and everything about it told a lot of us watching, like, oh, he's not okay, and like it is brutal. I mean, I can't even imagine. Maddie was a couple points away. It happens with her. De Minaur on match point gets through that one. It's a brutal sport. It is a brutal surface to play on. And I think we've seen more injuries. I don't know. It just seems like it this year than we have in years past. A lot of falls. Zverev, I heard his knee actually is maybe worse than he first led on. He's not sure
too.
He could play in the Olympics. Hurkacz, exactly. Yeah. So it just seemed like, it is a really tough surface to switch direction, to try and run. And so, I don't know. My heart breaks for De Minaur because gosh, everything, he was playing so well. Obviously, Novak would have been a huge test for anyone, and especially at Wimbledon. But to see in the way that it happened, that was pretty tough.
Well, here we are. Novak Djokovic, major semifinal, Wimbledon. What doubts? Here he is. And really, the biggest thing for me, too, is not a lot of miles on the car this tourney.
It went exactly how we needed it, it seems like. It's not easy. He came in here just having surgery. We talked about that. Obviously not perfect. And the first couple rounds, he could manage his movement and his play and still be able to get through. That was huge for him. He didn't have like one of those huge floaters in the first or second round that could maybe really disrupt him. He didn't have to play at 100%. Honestly, it looked like, physically he was kind of just going about the motions like it's 60%. Just I know how to play on grass, the best grass quarter right now, and I'm going to figure this out. Gets through, and now some breaks have gone his way now. And this exactly probably what he needed to be able to physically be fine going into just 2 more matches to get to 25.
And I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but in other sports, we always talk about rest versus rust and certain things. Has this ever happened to you where you've had the withdrawal days off before a big
I never
match?
got a withdrawal.
No, okay.
I was
there
like,
it
oh,
is.
dang it, I wish I could have. No, I'm kidding. But, you're in certain periods where you need matches and certain periods where you need rest. I think he needs rest.
Fine.
So I think for him...
would you ramp the practice up at all today?
Yeah. He might have. Yeah. I mean, honestly, like his team, you don't say anything yesterday, but you go through the normal practice. Today, I'm sure he went either back out to the practice court or had a longer warm up or knew before. And you practice longer today. It also affords him to take a day off if he needs it tomorrow. Right. Like he's got some flexibility now. But when you're coming off a surgery and you're coming off still trying to heal, you take it.
What do you think about this? I don't want to say dark Djokovic, but Djokovic not really caring whose feathers he ruffles. It's very exciting and entertaining.
I think he's just had enough. I think it's not easy to always be the villain out there. And, obviously in the age of Rafa and Roger, it just always seemed like the crowd was always against him. And not even against him, but like 90 to 95% for the other player. And I think he's just tired of it. I think it's not easy also when your kids are in the stands.
Yeah.
I think also when you're doing everything you can to still stay around in the sport, you do everything to help try and grow it. He just had surgeries out there. Like, really? I think he's just kind of tapped on it all. And I applaud him. I loved, he actually went into an interview. I think it was with BBC. I'm not sure. Good for him.
Yeah,
like, are you going to ask me a
questions.
tennis question? And then just gets up. Like, he's had it. I honestly, I don't blame him.
No.
And I think, good for him.
Love him or hate him, and I mean this sincerely, there's no all-time greats in other sports that are treated like him.
No.
Like, it's just a different standard.
It's just so, it's so odd because he does so much good as well, like off the court.
And it goes beyond just, if your favorites are playing against him, there's cheering for the other opponent that might be more popular. But yeah, it's reached a level that I don't quite understand.
And now it's almost like it seems like, oh, it's cool to cheer against them or whatever. And it's terrible. He's done amazing things. He's going to go down statistically, whether people like it or not, as the greatest player who's ever lived, male or female. Like, it's insane when you look at all of his numbers. So I mean, at 37 also, it's like, let's give it up for him.
Yeah. Only a few years left, we think, although who knows with this guy.
Exactly.
The other side of the draw on the men's side, we're going to get Daniil Medvedev, who upset world number one Jannik Sinner in 5 sets. A topsy-turvy match to say the least, but Daniil Medvedev, Lindsay, 9-1 in major quarterfinals. The guy just wins. Like, it's remarkable. I love that mad scientist nickname because he figures it out. It might not be anyone's cup of tea how he plays at times, but he just gets to the finish line shaking your hand and raising his racket. It's remarkable to see him do it.
I was super impressed when he played Sinner because he's lost some heartbreaking matches.
Yeah, the rivalry is weird because it's first 6 for Medvedev, then 5 for Sinner, and then he wins this one.
Yeah, but also in Grand Slam matches, it just feels like Medvedev has lost his share of heartbreakers in matches. He could have won up 2 sets in the Australian Open final. He was up 2 sets against Rafa in the Australian Open final. And you're playing someone who doesn't look 100%. You have to try and put that out of your mind, but then you lose the 4-6-2. He did something early in that 5th to kind of get his mind going. He got more aggressive, and he went after that match. Now, Sinner started to fade towards the end, but all credit to Medvedev, who put himself, in that 5th set and was like, no, I got to step it up again. And he was able to do that. But gosh, he just has the benefit or the lack of benefit. He just has a brutal draw. I mean, to go play Sinner.
You see the tweet yesterday? It's like, congratulations, you get, I think it was that big 3 count. I mean, you get the defending champ and RG champ. And if you win that, you get
most likely beat Sinner and then Alcaraz and possibly Djokovic.
That might be the greatest, if he does it.
Yeah, agreed.
It might be the greatest run
and
ever.
especially for him on grass. I mean, he hated the surface for a number of years. So I give him a lot of props in how he is kind of just managing everything right now.
So 2 points, one being how he finished that match, clutch serving, remarkable stuff. But he has evolved on grass. Like, he is, and really in all of tennis, he's playing more aggressive. He's never going to be the most aggressive guy out there, but he's playing more aggressive and he's shortening some points, which shows you how smart he is.
He's moving his positioning around. He backs up all of a sudden, and then you'll see him up on the baseline. Like, he is trying to problem solve out there in real time. And it doesn't seem, I mean, Jill Zavara does an amazing job coaching him. It's not as interactive as, let's say, Juan Carlos and Carlos. I mean, it seems like Juan Carlos is, talking and leading the ship every point. Medvedev has a great feel out there, and he just kind of figures things out, problem solves, and gets the job done.
Coaching by committee, too. I know Jill Simone's on his team. There's different ways it works, but if you get a little piece of everything, it could be beneficial. For Sinner, it was a tough way to go out, not feeling your best in a tough spot. I know that some days you just don't have it. Again, he came in as the favorite, and when you're not at your best and you're playing, the big and is you're playing somebody like Medvedev, sometimes it can just be too much, as we saw. Yeah, and it all kind of caught up to him, it seemed, and whether he has a virus or just exhaustion, you never really know. He made a strong push in the 4th, and so you thought, okay, maybe he's going to try and figure this out. Then he'd have some rest, and but it's a tough year for him. Played a lot. I mean, going into Wimbledon, he only had 3 losses all season. I mean, he's playing so much on the court, handling a lot, and it seems with ease, body just started to break down for whatever reason, and that happens. And now he'll try and get his rest and get ready for the Olympics. He's made really smart decisions, like every step of the way of this whole process.
So I think that he's going to be just fine for the Olympics and U.S. Open.
Still 42-4 on the season, which is just a maddening number. And you brought that point up about the draw situation, the luck of the draw. Berrettini's second round was a killer.
Brutal. He had the brutal draw. That one top quarter was insane.
Other side, defending champ into the semifinals. Carlos Alcaraz beats Tommy Paul in 4 sets. Exciting early. Alcaraz pulls away, winning the last 3 sets. I thought Tommy Paul, and we talked about the American breakthrough. He's looked so good on grass, all surfaces really. He gave Alcaraz everything he had in that first set and a half. Alcaraz is just kind of inevitable on this surface, what he can do and how he wears you down. That and Paul missing a lot of his first serves spelled the end of his demise. But for Alcaraz, he just reaches another level like those big 3 players do that ramps up as we get to the title weekend.
And a set and a break up, and Alcaraz able to just turn something on there.
No panic.
And really, I mean, I was impressed with Tommy Paul because, sometimes you get really flat or you start missing shots, and sometimes you just have to tip your cap to your opponent. And certainly Alcaraz did an amazing job himself of problem solving, of changing things up, and was able to then use his athleticism, use his power, and really take control.
So the cramping thing happens with Novak Djokovic at RG 2 years ago.
Right.
And he said it was nerve-related. Everything was because of that. The nerves are gone. Like, he's conquered it. And the first couple of games of the match, he had like a 16-minute hold. He stays in the fight. He's playing Tommy Paul, one of the fittest guys, maybe the fittest guy on tour. He's down a set and a break. There was no panic. There was no drama. He knows how good he is. He said how good he is in best of 5 sets. Like, he knows I'm eventually going to win it.
I'm telling you, that helps so much when your fitness is now to a point where you don't doubt it.
Yeah.
And I mean, sometimes what is important when you lose, that you take the lessons with you. It seems like every time Alcaraz loses, he learns something that only brings him back stronger.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe when all is said and done, maybe cramping and losing that match to Novak at Roland Garros was the catalyst for his team figuring out different ways to get him ready, for him realizing, oh, wow, I got to start managing my energy starting 8 days before the tournament. Whatever that is, he's kind of figured that out and figured out how he wants to play big points. All of it is super impressive from him and his whole team.
He's looking for his 4th Grand Slam. So
yeah.
Crazy. Well, I'll let you spoil it too. Where are we at with the Fritz?
I know. Did you just see that?
I saw the snap.
Gosh.
Down a break?
Yep. And he was serving 40-15 in the game. He just got broken early in the 5th. So we'll see if he can. So we're cheering for the Americans. Never shy to say it.
I will give props. We started recording as set 4 was wrapping up, but Musetti early, down a set, up a break in the second. He's played a very level-headed, smart, tactical match. Italy might get a semifinalist after all.
Yeah.
But Musetti's growth, where he's been the last couple of years, has been impressive. Has that one-handed backhand, but really deploying the slice early and frustrating Taylor out there.
It's really funny because it's something that, if you look from the outside at Tsitsipas, he should be a great grass court player. But his stubbornness to really figure out how do you use your slice on the surface has held him back. Musetti has figured it out, and he's using everything out there. He's moving Taylor around, putting him in uncomfortable positions, as we can kind of see out of our corner of our eye.
You made me laugh there because I watched the Tsitsipas Ruusuvuori match on the World feed, and toward the tail end of it, these are announcers that are just saying backhand, backhand, backhand. Like, those are the exact words for advice to Ruusuvuori.
It's just, I mean, he a player who has a big serve, good forehand, volley's great, and a one-handed backhand. Come on, Stefanos.
I think with Taylor, and I know this is the break, he had the breakthrough, he beats Zverev, he comes down from 2-0. There's a lot of baggage emotionally and otherwise with that. It just, again, shows you that you're not necessarily playing the draw, you're playing the moment too. Like, this is a match that he was favored, and he could still very well win, but I mean, especially, I don't have to tell you, you've been in these moments before, but it's a whole new ball game, and it's not necessarily who's across the net for me that you're fighting out there.
You're fighting so many, it's hard demons, or you have so many blocks on your way to becoming a Grand Slam champion. And it seems like, obviously, on the men's side, the last 20 years, huge blocks with the amount of the level that you're facing to try and do something. Every American knows it's been 21 years since Andy Roddick won the U.S. Open. Andy wants that broken. All of these players want that broken. And so that is always weighing also. You get to this stage and you're Taylor and you're in a quarterfinal, and all of a sudden you see you're not playing a Federer, you're not playing a Novak, and then you think you should automatically win. All these guys, they're so good. And it's just a lot for them to process. Every one of these players wants it so bad. And sometimes it's like, it's actually harder when you want it so bad, but it's not for lack of trying. And you know that all these guys, Paul, Francis, Taylor, I mean, there's
Ben Shelton.
Exactly. Ben Shelton, Sebi. I mean, there's so many of them. They all want it. They're all training like they want to do it.
You got 3 players in the top 15. They're inching closer. Haven't had the huge breakthrough. Obviously, the women have done it. So it's tough. We'll see if Taylor breaks back and comes back. He is a fighter. Like we see it.
He's not going anywhere.
No,
but
he believes, and that's the thing. I call it that, and I talked to Paul about it, that stubborn arrogance, but it's what you kind of need out there.
Totally.
That self-belief. So we'll wrap this up here. Lindsay Davenport on Tennis Channel Inside In. Thoughts on the final weekend? Any predictions? Any thoughts on both sides?
For me, it's Novak and Rybakina's. I really feel like it's their tournament to lose. And
Novak,
I feel like Novak is in a good position. I think the rest is going to help him. I never like to bet against someone with 24 majors.
I think it's the Carlos factor.
I agreed, but I'm not at that place yet to take it from Novak. I know this year he hasn't won a title. I know he didn't win it last year. I know all that, but I'm still there. And Rybakina is the best grass court player that's left. Can she go through to win? I'd be surprised if she doesn't, but there's been so many surprises, Mitch. I don't even know what to say. But those are my 2 picks for the weekend.
Novak has not made a final yet in any tournament this year, but we know Novak going for revenge is a dangerous animal. There's one last thing, though. I got to ask you about your time coaching, captaining the Billie Jean King Cup, how fun that would be. Obviously, a great group of girls. You qualify for the final in Spain in November, but what was that experience like?
Yeah, they're amazing. Honestly, I just can't even believe it. We're talking about the men. I believe there's 5 U.S. women in the top 14 right now. But not only that, of course, they're amazing players, but this generation, these ladies are amazing off the court. That was maybe the greatest thing for me to see. And I know a lot of them, and you deal with them at times, but the camaraderie and the team atmosphere, honestly, that's going all around Team USA. USTA has done an amazing job of the men. I mean, we had Davis Cup men there watching and supporting us. I mean, that never would have happened when I played. They practiced together at times, obviously not every time. But honestly, I'm around it because my son in the junior program there, my role in Billie Jean King Cup, I see it from a lot of different angles. And I couldn't love the way that U.S. tennis is going right now and helping each other. There's no animosity. There's no begrudging other players. If you want to be a part of the program, you show up on time, you work hard, and you're supportive. And the players are being raised with that mentality. It's paying off big time.
Well, I heard a story, and we can end with this, and you can confirm or deny, that the players loved your coaching style, your captaining style, because they would ask questions, and if you didn't have the answer when you played, you'd be like, I don't know. Trust
Taylor,
yourself.
I mean, I don't ever pretend to know more than what I do. I wish I did know everything, but Taylor was asking me specifically about this volley drop. I was like, girl, I just tried to make a volley over the net, but I think, a collaboration when I was playing was always much better than someone sitting there telling me how it's going to be. This is where you need to serve. Okay, let's try and figure this out. I kind of try to adopt that in most parts, except when my kids really start to talk back. And then I'm like, damn it, we're going, you got to do this. But I do try and tell myself, okay, let's figure this out. Do you feel comfortable doing X, Y, Z? I don't really know if that's going to work, but I was really flattered that the players wanted me to take this role. They're an amazing group. Hopefully in the next few years, we get back to that winning style. I wish them all the luck in the Olympics. I really hope Team USA brings back a lot of medals. It's a huge honor for me to just be around these ladies.
Well, they're lucky to have you. I think they would agree with that as well. The Billie Jean King Cup as the captain's final in Spain in November. Lindsay Davenport, always a pleasure. You're welcome anytime. I hope I'm not
bullying my way on
tracking.
Here.
I'm kind of bullying you to come on too. But it's always a pleasure talking tennis with one of the game's greats. So thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Mitch.